The modern-day schooling system in America is widely criticized for all of its flaws regarding individuality and freedom. The system is often compared to prison life and referred to as militaristic. All of this is thanks to the Battle of Llena on October 14, 1806. Now, for clarification, modern-day Germany was known as Prussia once upon a time. So whenever I say Prussia, know that I'm talking about our wonderful Volkswagen-driving, Bratwurst-eating, Lederhosen-wearing, Guten Tag talking, Auf Wiedersehen speaking, table-smacking brethren. Now, the Battle of Llena happened during the Napoleonic Wars of 1806 between Frederick William III of Prussia and Napoleon I of France. This battle ended in a decisive victory for the ragtag Napoleon-led French army over the well-trained Frederick William-led Prussian army. This devastating loss for Prussia led to massive change within the educational systems, with the goal of creating a more obedient and militaristic society to strengthen loyalty and fighting power. An address to the German nation by philosopher Johann Fichte led to the implementation of the first functional compulsion schools. The attendance to such schools were, as the name entails, entirely compulsory, and their structure was characterized uniquely. The students would be seated in rows and columns at a desk. Once the teacher entered the room, they would stand at attention like a soldier in the presence of an officer and greet the teacher with a "Good morning, Mrs. So-and-so." The students would then stand at attention until the teacher gave them orders to be seated and begin their work for the day. Now, this structure is strikingly similar to military schools here in the States, and that's because it accomplishes exactly what the military schools look to accomplish: to make better soldiers and more compliant factory workers. The goal of the whole system change was to increase the economic power and military strength of Prussia so that a loss like Jena would never happen again. Horace Mann, a member of the House of Representatives and key reformer of the educational system, became the head of a newly founded Board of Education in Massachusetts. Horace Mann had found the Prussian system in his studies and traveled to Prussia to see it for himself. Upon his return, he lobbied heavily to incorporate the system here in the States. So flash forward 200 years, and we still school people with the Prussian system. Now, this is all good and great, but according to Jonah Lehrer, author of The Power Trip, he states that the nice guys finished first. People give authority to people that they generally like. An obedient society lays the groundwork for the repeated abuse of power and authority due to the society's inability to formulate independent thought and challenge the authority of their governments. The real damage to an obedient society comes in the form of an order from authority. Milgram, in his article The Perils of Obedience, outlines an experiment in which two people are brought into a testing situation. The learner is to listen to strings of 2 words and must be able to repeat the second word in the sequence upon the hearing of the first word. The teacher, upon hearing an incorrect answer, will administer a series of shocks to the learner with increasing intensity. The experiment's horror is described. The point of the experiment is to see how far a person will proceed when he is ordered to inflict increasing pain on a protesting victim. At 75 volts, the victim grunts. At 120 volts, he complains loudly. At 150, he demands to be released from the experiment. At 285 volts, his response can be described only as an agonized scream. Soon thereafter, he makes no sound at all. It is not a game for him. Conflict is intense and obvious. The manifest suffering of the learner presses him to quit, but each time he hesitates to administer a shock, the experimenter orders him to continue. This example serves as a perfect metaphor for the functionality of authority. The experimenter is the authoritative figure, and the teacher is the one responsible for carrying out the order. The only way for the teacher to put an end to the suffering and agony is to disobey the authority that they have been trained and prepared to follow without question. In our modern-day society, we see examples of people losing touch with their abilities to question authority properly. David Brooks, a Canadian political commentator, states in his article The Follower Problem that those question authority bumper stickers no longer symbolize an attempt to distinguish just and unjust authority. These losses of individuality and capacity for independent thought are directly linked to a school system that is designed to strip us of those human qualities in order to create an easier-to-rule society. The school system is designed to create blind followers, incapable of questioning the authority of their leaders and to carry out those orders without a moment's hesitation. This is the dark future that the Prussian system sought to make real, and they did that successfully in 1933.